Okay, welcome back. Today, Heather has brought along her favourite book, and we're going to be talking all about equity, equality, toilets, things that are too small for our hands, and a very, very embarrassing story from Dot.
Let's fucking go!
Heather, are we interrupting your study session?
You absolutely fucking are, actually. I have had this book for a really long time, but it's only when we've been talking about things recently that it's reminded me, and I found my people that I would love to share about it. So
We're all ears, babe. We're all ears.
this book, Invisible Women, if you've never come across it, is basically exposing data bias in a world designed for men. So we all know that the world has been designed by men for men. And so when you have women in the world with small hands and little bodies and all the things that men don't think about, it becomes abundantly clear that it was never designed for us. And so some of my favourite, and when I say favourite, that's not necessarily positive, facts from this book, I'm sure you're aware, but for example, women are 47% more likely to be seriously injured and 17% more likely to die in a car crash than men, because crash test dummies are based on the average male.
I remember seeing this on like some show when I was about 10, and it made me so sad. Like, why are we going to be put at more risk just because they haven't considered the fact that we're short? Like, all three of us are quite short human beings, let alone women, and so many things are just not built for us at all.
But you'd think if you did anything, you'd just test it on both. You'd think there'd be children, like crash test dummies. Like, why is it just adult males? And alongside that, designed using male dummies, women drivers are 3% more likely to be trapped in vehicles after a crash. Because, again, everything is designed around men. What else have we got? Facial recognition and voice recognition. So early systems were 70% more likely to recognise a male's voice. And in the book, there was an anecdote of a woman that was explaining this to the technology company, and the guy literally just said, like, it's not going to listen to you. It's not going to get your voice. You may as well just give up, because the data sets that all of these like AI voice recognition tend to use is based with like male data, because all the data out there is like that.
I remember I loved it, actually. We were talking about it recently and someone explained to us there's a new movement where certain people in certain industries are going to get free sanitary products. And you made a very good point.
If men had periods, sanitary products would be free in public bathrooms, just like toilet paper is.
Yeah,
You're so right.
We have been talking about how the world isn't built for women, and the world is definitely not built for women with Fiat 500s.
Oh God.
You're not
As
wrong.
I am. The sponsor of this podcast this episode is Brannan Hire Station, which is great for me because as a girl with a Fiat 500, when I'm hiring tools from them, they have nationwide delivery and branches from Cornwall to Scotland. Because, you know what I've hired?
What?
Well, a stump grinder.
Oh,
Couldn't
God.
believe that. I forgot about that one.
I remember just
Absolutely
watching like your little
ridiculous.
feet were like and the stump grinder was going nowhere.
It wasn't moving.
So
it was
impressive.
like the Flintstones when they kick their feet out and run the car.
Yeah.
But I could never fit. I don't actually think any of the tools, other than the sander, if you like break the sander apart, it will fit in a Fiat.
But with nothing else in the car.
with
knowing
nothing,
you,
no
you had too
people in
much
it
other stuff
other than
in
the
there.
driver.
Yeah, because you've used them for everything, haven't you? Like, you've had so many
I've
tools
used
from
them for everything. So from stump grinding to rotavating, sanding floorboards, like fence post puller.
Wild.
Riddle me that. Whenever they deliver, it comes straight onto my driveway, and then all I have to faff about with is pushing it wherever it needs to go.
Which is more difficult than
Which
you
is
think
actually
sometimes.
not as easy as you'd think. So throughout this whole thing, I've managed to find pretty much any tool I need because they have literally everything. Anything I've ever needed, I've been able to find there. Because we've done work in the garden, we've done work in the house, and there hasn't really been anything we haven't been able to find.
I need to check them out.
Yeah, you do. Well, you will probably need to use them. So
I know. I'm going to have to get on the phone. Beep, 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 beep.
if you need to hire anything from Brannan Hire Station, we have a discount code which is 10% off with code PINK10. It will be in the description below.
Yay!
What made me dig this out of my cupboard was when you were talking about tools.
Yeah, so we had the Dremel portable saw thing, and I got so excited because the battery, you could take it out with one hand, and it was really ergonomic and made for people with smaller hands, I can only assume, or at least with them in mind. You don't, like, if you've got large hands, you can still use things that are smaller. So it's brilliant. Having had a background in product design, it's really drilled into us to be like, who is your market and who's going to use this?
Yeah.
And you look at both. And there is a compromise to be had. Like, obviously, if someone's got absolutely enormous hands and someone's got tiny hands, you've got to use like the middle percentiles. But like, at least go sort of near the edges. And if you can't consider it. And if you can't make it happen, then have an add-on for these people. Like, work out something so that we can use it. My hands aren't particularly small, and I even struggle with these things.
I completely agree. In a lot of cases, you can go middle percentile, but with a lot of good design, actually you go, okay, well, for example, right? So in UX, boys are like blue and girls like pink, that's the kind of stereotypes, whatever. So you might say, okay, well, we'll go purple then, because that's kind of mid between the two, right? Problem is boys also don't like purple. So you might better off, and I know it sounds really bad to say especially after all the things we're talking about today, but girls, if you actually do the research, don't mind dealing with something that's blue. We don't have a care. So go blue, because then you get both the girls and the boys. You haven't chosen it because it's for boys. You've chosen it because actually you're going to get the most amount of like a spread. But with something like the, I know we've spoken about it before, at least I've definitely spoken about it on my social media. When you have the batteries for the power drills, you've got to hold the power drill in one hand, which is fine, great, not too heavy, but you've got this big off battery that needs to be pressed at the exact same point on both these single triggers, and they need one finger and one on the thumb. And they're so high up on the battery that a hand cannot fit it. So I have to swap it round, pop it in between my legs, and use both my hands to do it. I do have small hands, but there is not a woman out there who's gone, oh my goodness, you've got hands way smaller than mine. My hands are pretty much the same, not far off other people's hands. Okay, my hands are quite small, but the point being is they are a woman's hands, right? Like they're not ridiculously teeny tiny.
And they're crazy.
So what I'm trying to say is that with these things like you can completely imagine the product design team that dealt with that battery, they would have got a man's hand to put it around, and then they might have had that same conversation where like, oh, well, sometimes women use it and sometimes massive hands use it. So let's just go in the middle. But that doesn't make any sense, because massive hands will only find it easier.
Yeah.
It's only affecting the people with small hands.
You're only excluding a group by making it hard for small hands. You're not excluding the massive hands.
It's something that we learned at uni about. It was more accessibility, which is including anyone who isn't the average.
Yeah.
So normally you're thinking of disabilities, but I always think back to OXO as a brand. So, like the vegetable peelers and that. They actually originally, and I mean, I haven't fact checked this, but I'm pretty sure it's true, that they made them for people with disabilities, but they are so user friendly because they've made them for people with disabilities that everyone likes using them because they're really ergonomic. So if you actually plan for people with disabilities or smaller hands or whatever, like you say, you make it so it's easy for the little hands to take it out, the big hands will still be able to use it, maybe even easier, because you've made it more accessible to everyone.
And if anyone's listening or watching going, oh, but I have big hands and I have such a hard time with apps and pressing buttons and stuff. Well, I'm an app designer and I think about you and I make the area that you can click as big as humanly possible so it's nice for your big chubby fingers to click on it, and you're welcome.
You can zoom in.
So it is, there are so many things that can be done, whether you've got teeny hands or giant hands. But I think in our industry that we're in, especially with power tools and stuff, I think we've just noticed it way more than we should be noticing it.
Well, also, even like, as you say, thinking about that little person in the back of your mind, like devil's advocate of like, okay, well, maybe it's actually made for men predominantly and they have to choose a market. There's always marketing involved. You have to think about who's actually going to buy the thing. And maybe they just went, you know what, percentage-wise, it's only 5% women, so let's focus on the bigger market. Okay, sure. But I saw a TikTok of this, and you'll probably notice that a lot of my things come from TikTok. But it was a woman who was holding her baby and saying, go on then, baby wipe brand. Tell me if any of you can open up this packet of baby wipes with one hand. Because while I'm trying to do this, I'm holding my child. And she physically couldn't open these baby wipes with one hand. And I think that's a really good example of that is made predominantly for women in mind.
For mothers holding babies.
Yeah, mothers holding babies, and they still haven't thought about that.
And actually, humans holding babies, because you're a man and you're holding your baby, I bet you still can't open it.
Yeah, it wasn't
got nothing to do.
thing.
No, but before the hand size thing, also, we say, okay, tool brands, fine. If we're going to give them the biggest like benefit of the doubt literally ever, fine. You're typically marketing it to men, even though we're ignoring the fact that like if you have big hands you can still do what small hands can do. Yeah, it's fine, they can do it. And then we talk about babies. Okay, well, like that's primarily women. But then you talk about smartphones, which average smartphone sizes are too large for 90% of women's hands. 90%. But it's ideal for the average male grip, because if you look at
you
when
have
you're
chosen the
that,
massive one.
But I wanted the one with all the fancy stuff. Am I not allowed that? Because
the bigger ones tend to have all the bells and whistles on them.
Yeah.
That the smaller ones don't.
But even this is the smaller size and it's still too big. Like I can't reach the other side.
Not to mention our tiny weeny little pockets that they can't fit in.
Miles had this. We bought some really nice jeans and they look great on him and he's livid about it because he can't fit anything in his pockets. And
welcome to
our world.
Yeah, it is a stupid world when you're a woman. There's also a bit from the book talking about the phone thing that was a real world implication of her phone being too small. So summarizing, there was a situation, a researcher at the University of North Carolina was trying to document tear gas use at the Gezi Park protests in Turkey in 2013. But the size of her Google Nexus got in the way. So in the middle of this whole thing, and she's like a journalist and she's trying to researcher, not a journalist, and she's trying to capture the moment. She said that because of the tear gas, her lungs and her eyes were burning for the pain, and she started cursing because her phone was too big. She could not take a picture one-handed, something I had seen countless men with larger hands do all the time. All of the photos from the event that she took were unusable for one simple reason: good smartphones were designed for male hands. So the fact, yes, we can hold it, but you can't really feasibly do much with it.
Yeah, you can't reach the other side without like rejigging everything.
No.
On a side note, have you seen that there's some people who can text completely by just swiping their finger around the keyboard?
I used to do that.
I can't do it at all. I just get gobbledygook whenever I try and do it.
It takes a lot of
practice.
But
it's not, just to clarify,
it's because your finger isn't too long. Is your thumb's not long enough?
Well, yeah, it's because I can't reach the cue. If I've got my hand there, I cannot reach the cue. Do you want to zoom in on that? There you go. Wait. So I got my thumb. There's in my hand. I can't reach the cue. I can get to an R. I got to an E. There we go. And that was really hard.
In the QWERTY.
So unless I put it on the ground, then I with the extra support I can get to the cue.
With directly related to our industries, our hands and bodies being smaller. Like we've spoken about it before when you said, I dare you to go into any like brand, any shop and buy off the shelf PPE that fits women. So if you think about glasses being too big, they're not going to protect your eyes properly. Gloves being too big, you don't have proper grip on anything. And in construction, 95% of women say PPE doesn't fit properly, raising safety risks.
I think so. Like all of the sort of safety trousers, safety boots don't go small enough all the time. I was literally in a hardware shop the other day and I spent a good like 5 minutes digging through all of the shelves, all of the large and extra larges, and I found like 2 mediums like stuffed at the back. Went to the till and a woman had hands that were like this big and she was like, oh yeah, I had to have kids gloves. And I'm kids gardening gloves. So the gardeners are allowed to be women with small hands, but anyone doing building work cannot.
I will, for this episode, make sure I have a collection of products because I'm actually doing my shopping list for my birthday at the moment. And I love, really good sight shoes and shite shoes. Some shite shoes. I really like finding stuff that not only looks good, is proper stuff and also fits my body. If I have that up and running, I will have the link in the description in case there are any women who are currently looking for all these things. Yes, darling, you are going to have to go to lots of different websites and order online because we've established they're not on the shelf. But if you are searching, I will have everything hopefully there.
I'm going to have a dig through that one.
I just don't understand. Like we're talking about this all like it's so normal and so fine and so chilled, but like what the fuck?
There's your soundbite.
I'm sorry, but what the fuck?
Why is it so normal?
50% of the population, and we cannot buy.
This is
things that fit our bodies.
The crash test dummy thing really irks me for many, many reasons.
Is it because you're more likely to die?
That really does bother me slightly.
Bless you.
But it's also like, and I don't mean to then suddenly go, oh, high and mighty, but like we all know that it's the woman's body that can hold the baby,
give life.
And I love that we have these on trains and stuff, the idea is that you are meant to give up for pregnant women. Like, there are societal things that we do for pregnancy because we understand that woman is carrying a child, and that's very important and gives life.
And heavy.
So how, and sore and in pain, how is that not being considered within like car accidents? This idea that like, this phrase of like, oh, they're carrying precious cargo. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit demeaning, but like the point being is, how is that not then translated into safety on the roads and women's safety and health?
Yeah.
But I bet that if there were any steps, it normally is to do with the cargo she's travelling and not the fact that she is a woman herself that matters.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like it's sad that it has to come to that point that's like, but what about the baby? But
you don't matter, but the baby does.
But people do, and people do care. But I just don't understand. I've never been on these boards. I've never been on these panels. But like, why not? Like, why are there women not there? Why is no one testing this on women? Why, if you're trying to sell the most amount of products, why aren't you thinking, okay, so we're going to sell some gloves here. Like, let's get some gloves for men and then let's make some smaller sizes for women, like shoes. Imagine if there just weren't any shoes in the world that fit women's feet. It'd be like, well, what are we supposed to do? Not wear shoes? Like, why are some things considered in women's, why are we considered in the thoughts? And then other things, it's just like, oh, well, they've got shoes and they've got clothes. They don't need PPE. They don't need phones that fit their hands. They don't need tools that work properly for them. Like, where's the line? Why is there so much of the world that means that we can't use it properly? Because you're hurting your own sales.
There's a really interesting concept that I think you guys will obviously understand, but it took me a long time to really get to grips with it. And it's equality versus equity. And I think that a lot of people find this really difficult because, for example, with all these sort of women versus men in, I don't know, construction with the gloves, it's like, oh, well, there are gloves there and I've got gloves and why are you having such a problem with it? Where the women just physically can't fit in them. And there's a really interesting graphic where there's 3 people, all of different heights, and equality is when they're all stood on the same box trying to look over this wall, and the shortest one can't see over the wall, the second one can just about, and the tallest one is absolutely fine. And then equity is when they all have different size boxes and they all are at the same height and they can all see the same thing. And it's so obvious when you see it like that not everyone is going to be sat in the same issues and the same problem, and they don't have the same view of the world. So we need to tweak it to suit them to make sure everyone has the same chance.
I've seen a very similar diagram. It's the one where you've got this like lineup of animals. You've got the monkey, the lion, the leopard, you've got the bear, and then finally you've got the fish in its little bowl. And they're all like, okay, what's the next activity? Like, what are we going to do today? Like, what's the test going to be? Like, I hope I score high. And then the teacher or whatever is like, okay, for test number today, you all need to see how fast you can climb that tree. And like the monkey's like, yeah, got this. Leopard's like, yeah, in the bag. The fish is like, fuck. How the hell
am I supposed to do that? So equality versus equity, as you said, is kind of like in equality, you give everyone the same thing because that's everyone gets equal. That's fair enough. But my favourite book says otherwise. So, for example, on the face of it, it might seem fair and equitable to accord male and female public toilets the same amount of floor space, and is historically this way. This is the way it's been done. 50-50 division of floor space has been formalised in plumbing codes. However, if a male toilet has both cubicles and urinals, the number of people who can relieve themselves at once is far higher per square foot of floor space in the male bathroom than in the female bathroom. Suddenly, floor space isn't so equal. So the kind of like, well, let's just give everyone equal is, okay, fine, like we're going to give 10 square meters to the male toilets and 10 square meters to the female toilets. Sounds great.
Yeah,
everyone has equal. And then you think about the fact that women have cubicles, men have urinals. So you can fit a whole lot more urinals in the toilet space, on that floor space, than you can toilet cubicles. But then if you also think about the fact that women take longer to go to the toilet because of periods, pregnancy, they're 8 times more likely to have a UTI, and they often accompany children or the elderly because it tends to be that elderly care falls to the woman and childcare falls to the women.
We also don't have flies.
Yes, you can't stand up and wee and be quick in and out, can you?
No, you've literally got to take it all off.
Yeah, if you're wearing a jumpsuit, you're there, just like baps out.
Yeah, oh, okay, well, you've got a dress on. Now we've got knickers underneath, and they need to go all the way to the floor. Yeah. So No.
So equal number of male and female toilets doesn't equal fair access.
No.
It's not fair to keep it as a 1-to-1 split, because
it's exactly
it doesn't work
why
like that.
When you're in like a public space and they're literally anywhere, whether it's one toilet or 20, there is almost always a queue of women going right round the block, and there's like men just coming in and out, and it's really annoying. And I didn't realise that was why.
I wouldn't be too angry, I suppose, but I bet you every man ever at some point in their life has looked at that queue and gone, oh, for fuck's sake, women, what are you doing in the toilet? You're applying your makeup.
You're reapplying your lippy.
Yeah. You're taking up all this time. These other women want to get in. And it's like, no. Like, honestly, when there's a queue that long, the minute I'm at the front of the queue, you know I am peeing as fast as humanly possible to let a toilet out, because I know there's a queue. I know there's a queue. Mm-hmm. I am not just waiting in there. I'm not on my phone having a little scroll or having a poo. Like, that is not me. But I can bet you Barry in the fucking cubicle on the side is more than happy to do that for the whole afternoon.
I saw something at the weekend that was like a micro-feminist thing. I was just like, yes, point for women. And I was in the pub, and I went into the toilet, and I was genuinely shocked. There was a queue out of the door to the toilet, and then out of the door to the toilets from the pub onto the dance floor for the male toilet.
Oh,
what happened? Just
like,
I
don't know,
but I was like, "Look at you, sucker!" As I walked in, I genuinely like jaw gaped. Like I pushed the door open to the women's toilets. I looked back at the men, and I was like,
but you know what's
really
funny is how many times
walk on here.
Have you ever been desperate enough where you've had to use the male's toilets?
I thought you were going to say the sink.
Been there, done that as well. But yeah, like, because obviously normally like the girls' toilets is either it's in use or there's a queue. I have before just run quickly into the boys' toilets to have a pee and then run back out again because I've been terrified. But joking. But God forbid a boy ever did. Like, obviously they can't because of all the reasons why I'm sure they would feel uncomfortable doing it. But like, also they just wouldn't.
And there's also no running into the girls' toilets and out again.
You'd have to queue.
Yeah,
you'd have to queue for ages.
Yeah, you'd be like, your cover would be blown straight away. Just stood in the queue for 20 minutes.
But then they'd just suddenly discover our secret. Like in the office, where suddenly it's like all cushions, and
they'd go in and there's hair dryers and straighteners, and like reapplying
a bar in there.
Yeah,
that's what they're expecting.
We've got a bar. We've got like an airport lounge.
Yeah,
that's why we take so long.
That's why we're all in there for so long.
Yeah, we're getting our nails done.
If you look more globally, it's like a huge problem elsewhere, and a lot of women globally are risking their safety to go and try and find toilet spaces. And what we're also ignoring is the kind of men can go anywhere thing. Mm-hmm. That like, if you're really in a pinch, like boys can kind of go anywhere. And sorry, separate point. Have you ever been with a boy that is peeing like in a public place and you're like, do you need to do that? And they're like, well, I need to go. And I always say, well, I couldn't do that. I am an adult. I can hold it in. Why can't you? And my brother is always like, you're just jealous. It always just like creates an argument where it doesn't need to be one. I'm like, why do you have the bladder of a child? Why do you also have no forethought to think I'm going to pee before I leave the house? Or like, I'm about to go on a car journey.
They don't need to.
Yeah,
they're living in a world they don't need to.
I wonder if boys have
maybe
done
their frontal lobe isn't developed.
Yeah,
I mean, your brother is 19.
I would argue still not developed.
Yeah,
exactly. I've seen him pee in a bottle way too many times.
Steph has this thing every time. It's like, you might have to cut this out. I'll think about it later. Steph has this thing that like as soon as he hits fresh air, like proper, like we're in the middle of nowhere, fresh air, he needs a wee. The boys are nodding.
The boys are nodding. That's so funny.
What the hell?
The liquid just stays in my bladder.
What is this Pavlov's dog situation?
Yeah,
where
it's a Pavlov's dog situation. We're out in the fresh air. I must get my knob out.
I need to pee now, right now, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Like us girls, we've all done it. We've all had a nature wee because we've been caught out when we need to. It is not an enjoyable experience.
No, it's a bit tricky out in the
world. It's really hard.
It's so tricky.
Near Shiwi, but that adds a whole matter of things.
And then like at festivals when the boys can just go and pee in the bushes and you've got to traipse through the whole festival to get to the disgusting toilets.
I went to a festival a few weeks ago and there were female urinals. So I've been to festivals before where they have Shiwis, which were really difficult because you have to wee like standing up, and the only time I ever managed it was when I was drunk. They're like cardboard Shiwis. It's all a bit of a thing. Didn't like that. But these ones were like actual little cubicles.
Did you try it?
Where you hold onto the wall and you just squat down. and it's just squatting, but you've got like a hole in the floor basically in a tiny little open air cubicle, and there's like hundreds of them. No queue for the toilets, all very clean, no issue at all. It was actually great. They were really brightly coloured too, which I appreciated.
It's a brand new world. Is that what you said?
Brand new world, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Never seen them before, but maybe that's the new way.
Maybe that's the Gen Z
Maybe in
way.
20 years we'll reconvene and we can discuss.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, Heather's still in the queue.
Yeah.
It's taken her 20 years to get through.
Yeah, but what about anything else? Like we've just talked about, like if you're accompanying the elderly or children, lift the child up. Like, or you're on your period, or like anything else.
Of course,
UTI.
if you need other things, there were other toilets. That wasn't the only toilet option.
It was your
just
only option.
For speed, I think they've introduced those at festivals, but the Shiwi ones with the cardboard Shiwis are insane. Also, I'm too short for them. That's half the fucking problem. I bet these urinals are made for men, and I'm there having to like hoik myself over it. It's not a vibe at all.
Oh my god! But I remember when Shiwis, like my mum talked about Shiwis years ago. We're like a proper scouting family, so we went on our fair share of like hikes and survival camps and all this stuff. And I remember my mum talking about Shiwis, like bring a Shiwi. It's like.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember if I had one or whether I was just told about it, but it was when we went to my first festival. And I think all us girls like either said we were going to get one or got one. But yeah, they were like these silicone things that you reused and like obviously washed out.
I've never actually used a reusable one. I've always avoided.
Like an adult potty?
No, it's like a tube that you then shake out.
It is literally like having a little silicone willy that you just attach. And
Heather's not pleased. Not impressed.
I would just say that like an adult, I'll just hold it.
Yeah.
Like it is physically possible, by the way, man.
Is there something I've read or heard, you might know, where it's actually really detrimental?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You remind me, because it actually, somewhere in here, it does talk about the fact that it's actually detrimental to women's health, the fact that they're constantly having to hold their pee in these really long queues, and it increases their risk of UTIs, amongst other things.
Classic behaviour.
Yeah, it's not only uncomfortable, it's not only pissing me off, but also it's really bad for your health. And, God forbid, if you're drunk. If you ever had it where, like, you're in the girls' toilet queue in a nightclub and someone comes rushing in and they're like, she needs to go now, or someone's going to get sicked on.
Yeah.
So I was 15 on my way to St. Lucia on my first, like, full holiday, like, with my family. And I hadn't been on a flight that long since I was like a little child. So don't ask me why. Like, I don't feel the same way anymore. But I was really, really scared to go to the loo on the plane because
just in case you got sucked out.
Yeah, and like I was 15. Like the last time I was on a plane, I was obviously young enough that my mum could have gone with me. So it was just the first time experience I was just a little bit scared of. I didn't want to do it, and I was very good at holding in my pee. So I just thought, you know what? I'll pee before. And I'll pee after, and I won't pee
How
on
long was this flight?
Like a 10, 11-hour flight.
And the boys have to go the minute they hit fresh air, and she can hold it for 10 hours.
Oh, well, I don't know where the story's
going. We got to the point of like, right, the loos are off now. Like we're now landing. So yeah, I literally did hold it for that long.
Wow.
Congrats.
Now I was on my period at the same time, so I had what I thought was period cramps, and I'm like doubling over like with these really bad cramps, and I am just generally uncomfortable because I do have a full bladder of pee that I need to sort out. And anyway, I think it must have been because now I can't. I suddenly was like, shit, no, I really do need a wee. And obviously because I need a wee so bad, I was like, you know what, actually I will go on my own, it's fine. But I wasn't allowed to. So now suddenly my mum has to make a big fuss to the flight attendant being like, she needs to go. Like, she really needs to go. So the flight attendant was like, no, I'm sorry, love, you can't. So I pissed myself on the seat, in my clothes. And then
I love how you didn't think that's where this was going.
I finally like was able to sort of freshen up, but I didn't have any of my clothes or anything. And
freshen up as much as you can when you're covered in your own piss.
And the worst part is, and like 1, 2, skip a few, we arrive at the resort and I just want to go to the room, right? Like obviously I smell like piss and I just don't feel great. And my parents have given me like a jumper or something, so I'm not like visibly covered in piss, but I know I am. I can feel it. And I get put on one of those buggies, you know, when they're like, oh, let's take you to your room. But they're like they're multiple passenger buggies. So we're on with another family, and they have a son who's about my age. So my parents decided at that moment, let's make a little meet cute. Let's get them meeting and like introduce themselves. So there's my parents going, oh, this is Hamish. Oh, this is Dot. Dot, say something nice about Hamish. Like talk it. And I'm there like, Mum, Dad.
Not now.
I stink of piss. Like, please don't try and make me meet a boyfriend right now. This is the last time. I don't want him to remember me like this. And then, we lived happily ever after. No, I'm joking.
And then changed his name to Steph.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that he sat there and went,
what's that? Or I thought it was going to be like a young
piss?
kid who just like shouted that at you. That's what I was expecting.
It might have happened. Maybe a lot of it is gone from the trauma.
She blocked it out because of trauma.
Why am I always a piss and shit person?
Don't ask me.
Oh, sorry, actually.
You bring it on yourself,
I bring it on myself.
So again, I saw a TikTok and it was really inspiring. And I feel like I haven't seen enough of this woman, even though I hear her name a fair bit. And it is Melinda French Gates. I'm not sure if that's now her maiden name back in there or something, but she obviously got a lot of money from her divorce and she is a boss bitch and is really trying to help lots and lots of different things. But the one that popped up was about women's health. And something that really stood out to me in the video was that cardiac issues have like bugger all research for women and women have really adverse effects because they just don't know how to handle it. And there was also the thing that we talked about earlier about the rats, and it is because of their hormonal differences. They don't use female rats because they can't understand their hormones. They don't bother. But she is investing $1 billion into women's health. And this new pledge that I saw was an extra 50 million going into it, specifically for autoimmune diseases, because 80% of autoimmune disease sufferers are women, and yet there's no, like, little to no research on it. So I just wanted to start us there because I think it's such a great thing that she's doing.
Because women, I think heart disease is like the number one killer for women. It's like up there. It's really big. But also in that is the fact that like a lot of cardiac issues are misdiagnosed for women. Women are 50% more likely to be misdiagnosed after a heart attack than men. That's due to not having proper research into the symptoms of a heart attack when you're a woman. So the typical male symptoms is what they're basing it off of. And then you're misdiagnosed. The same way that like autism and ADHD presents differently in women. Yeah. So women are far more likely to be misdiagnosed or not diagnosed as neurodivergent because they are judging everyone by the same symptoms as like men or boys. And also that in the same vein, because also with things like a heart attack, we've all heard about women being brushed off when she's having a heart attack as just anxiety because women's pain is never taken seriously.
Yeah, which happens so much, doesn't it?
Women wait 35% longer than men in ERs to receive pain relief.
Really?
Yeah, because they have to like properly be like, no, I'm in fucking pain. And they're like, sweetie.
You'll be okay, babes.
Sure?
Don't worry.
Yeah. What was the thing you said earlier about the...
Pain
Did you say that on the pod?
Yeah, when we were talking about mansplaining, a woman that follows me, she mentioned that she went to the doctor and she had him explain to her how her pain in her lady area should feel, which is mad because how would you ever know?
How can you speak on that when you don't have any experience to speak on that?
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like the Frank was telling us about that image of Donald Trump with all his other white fat
when they were
men
making decisions about abortion,
smiling because they're writing a decision about women's health rights and abortion rights and stuff like this. And it's like, well, I don't think a single woman was in that conversation,
which is mad because I saw a clip of Dean Withers the other day, and he was talking to an ex-veteran. And it was talking about some kind of policy or legislation to do with the army and to do with the military, And the guy was like, I don't think you have any right to speak on this matter because you have never fought in a war. You have never been a veteran. You have never trained. You have never And Dean Withers was like, okay, cool. Yeah. You're so close to getting this because you're pro-life, right? And yet you think I shouldn't speak on military issues because I have never been in the military, but you think you are allowed to speak on women's rights when you're not a woman.
Yeah.
You're so close to getting the point, but you're missing it so far.
I do love him. He's absolutely brilliant. I've seen quite a few videos from him, and it was another man. Again, I'm only seeing a snippet of this, so I haven't watched the entire debate, but they were talking about like, oh, well, women shouldn't be in positions of stress and under pressure. And he just went on this whole long rigmarole about how women are actually built for more pressure and more stress because they have a extra bit in their brain to cope with extra stress on their body because of childbirth. So it's like an innate thing built into us that we're actually better in stressful situations.
At handling stress.
Which I think is sort of something that people have only recently realised because we weren't given the tools or
it's just the assumption. I don't understand whoever came up with it, but where does this assumption ever come from? That's just like, oh, women can't handle it.
Well, what was it? You guys might know better than me. What's that thing where like for so many decades, a woman who was a tool not acting the way that a man wanted her to had hysteria? Hysteria?
Yeah. So
the word hysteria originates from the term given to a woman who
was hysterical,
but it was just like, I don't know what it was actually, but that's where the term originates from.
This says, I haven't double checked this, but this says the word comes from the Greek hystera, which means womb.
Oh.
Which shows how tied the condition was to sexist ideas about women's health.
Oh.
So a now discredited medical diagnosis, mostly applied to women in the 19th and earlier 20th century, used as a catch-all for anything from anxiety to irritability to fainting and even sexual desire.
Sexual desire, you're hysterical. I bet they wouldn't do that the other way around.
But I think now, I actually think that while that's great, that's been discredited and like that's like a ha ha ha.
Yeah, but like the damage has already been done.
I think now we have that with anxiety. So you're coming in with chest pain and you're coming in with like all these reasons why you're really stressed about your health, and they go like, oh well, it's probably a panic attack then.
Yeah, no, it's a heart attack. But it comes from the fact that like women's health has like zero funding and zero research. For example, there's 5 times more research that goes into funding erectile dysfunction, which affects 19% of men and rarely affects their quality of life, compared to PMS, which affects 90% of women.
Yeah.
So 20% of men get 5 times the funding of something that doesn't even affect their quality of life.
It does baffle me. And then when I was younger and I went on to contraception, the doctors told me that I shouldn't have the combination pill, which is the one that they sort of throw out to everybody because I've got a family history of cancer. So they were like, actually for you, let's get you on something different. And I was on the depot injection for 10 years. And the reason that they said that they ship them out to everybody is because they're the cheapest form of contraception so that they can give it out on the NHS. But the side effects are so long. And obviously all of them have crazy side effects. But for me, the depot was the best option. I then came off the injection because I was worried about eventually wanting kids, and the injection stays in your system. You only have to have it every 3 months. So like it's a very long time. So I moved over to the same sort of drugs, but on a pill instead. But I'm still there. Like I'd rather not be doing this. And it's something that we are expected to do.
I always talk about the pill. I've never been on it, so I actually probably shouldn't. But I we've been brought up by my mum to never be on the pill, and it's one of my like biggest pet peeves and biggest reasons why I would never go out with someone if they expected me to be on the pill. And I'm reminded of an article that I read once, which is genuinely baffling. So in 1968, a young man visited his psychiatrist with an awkward observation. He had been taking the drug thioridazine to treat schizophrenia when he noticed something unusual. His orgasms had become dry. Nearly 3 decades later, the story became the inspiration for a sensational new idea. Could a similar drug form the basis of the male contraceptive pill? So they basically discovered a male contraceptive pill, which meant that they didn't ejaculate. Sick. No side effects, all good. But the reason it didn't take to market was because it made men feel emasculated. So it could have been so simple, but that has never been, because they just knew it wouldn't take off. Yeah. Because people be like, I don't want that.
Well, they had the same sort of thing. Well, that's awful, by the way. But they're the same thing with the pills that force you to have a fake period. And it was because they assumed that women would still want a period, otherwise it would feel too weird. I'm like, the one benefit of this shit is to not have a period.
They never consulted a single woman ever in that, clearly.
They just didn't think it would take off.
Or listened to anything ever. This drug said that it can stun sperm for 2 hours, rendering it its taker temporarily infertile for 2 hours.
I know it's wrong, but can we just all make our other halves feel crazy so we can get them on this pill? Like, it's for your schizophrenia, babe. I'm still with
Let's
you.
Just gaslight
Don't worry.
everyone into
Let's
taking
just gaslight the men into taking the pill. Obviously not the answer.
I don't know if there is a male contraceptive pill out yet. I really hope that there is.
I think there is.
But what's funny is there's a male contraceptive pill out there, and yet I don't know a single man taking it. And I know friends of mine who have recently had the IUD, gone through incredible pain, been in pain for 6 months, can't figure out what's going on with her own body, her own hormones, her own mental health because of this IUD.
One of my friends from work, she had the coil and it got lost inside her and she had to go through completely invasive surgery to get it taken out.
Yeah, I've seen that happen to 2 of my friends. Some of the topics that the book covers, personally, I feel like makes me go down a bit of a rabbit hole of sadness, but I still think it's so important to recognise the world we live in and recognise how we should be more aware of our own bias and the bias around us. So if you do want to read the book, it's called Invisible Women. It's super famous. It is a tough read, but it's so incredibly important. And if you're feeling sad, just go and watch something like The Summer Turned Pretty and just like enjoy yourself.
And let me have that book after you.
Absolutely. And I think, there's going to be a lot of people listening and watching to this who may want to share their experiences. Either they want to maybe get in contact because they're feeling this way, maybe they're feeling a little bit hopeless about it, or you just want to chat to us. You can, of course, DM any of us or the Ask the Boss podcast channels, or you can actually email us now at asktheboss@southcast.studio. That will be somewhere on the screen right now. We'd love to hear from you.